I think it's time to have an uncomfortable conversation about Jon Moxley, the human embodiment of a Metallica B-side and the undisputed king of the Bleed for No Reason Club. Jon Moxley, aka Dean Ambrose, aka the Lunatic Fringe, aka I'm edgy, I swear. If there's a wrestler who defines doing too much and still managing to do too little, it's this guy right here. Remember when your edgy high school friend swore he was different because he wore a leather jacket and smoked clove cigarettes? That's Moxley. Except instead of hanging out in a parking lot behind Hot Topic, he's headlining pay-per-views. His entire aesthetic screams, I just finished a shift at the local dive bar and I'm here to fight whoever spilled my beer. From his days in WWE's The Shield to his current cosplay as the lead in a low-budget biker gang movie with the Death Riders, Moxley has somehow convinced people he belongs in the main event scene. Spoiler alert, he doesn't. Somehow this guy went from being the weakest link in the Shield to stumbling into AEW's main event scene where he's been riding a tidal wave of blood, barbed wire, and bad booking ever since. Supposed to be the unhinged wild card, but his idea of being unhinged was screaming incoherently like your drunk uncle at Thanksgiving.
Tasty.
Ambrose was the guy in the group who made you think, wait, did he just stumble in from the crowd? When Ambrose went solo, WWE branded him as the Lunatic Fringe, a name so corny it sounds like a bad emo band from MySpace. He had his moments of promise though, but then came the gimmicks. Y'all remember the hot dog cart? Or the feud when Seth Rollins, when he wore a gas mask, ranted about germs? These weren't the actions of a lunatic, they were the actions of a man who clearly lost favor with creative. WWE tried to push him as a main event star, but every time he got near the top, he simply fell flat. Why? Because even Ambrose seemed like he didn't believe he belonged there. Fast forward to AEW, where Ambrose shed his WWE skin and emerged as Jon Moxley, the hardcore anti-hero who walks through the crowd, like he's auditioning for a remake of The Road Warrior. And don't get me wrong, everyone was excited when he debuted. Finally, Moxley was free from WWE's creative shackles. But then we realized something tragic. It wasn't the WWE. AEW gave Moxley a new home and a new faction, the Blackpool Combat Club. A name so pretentious it sounds like something rejected from a Harry Potter fan film. They had all the pieces, Danielson, Claudio, and even William Regal for that touch of British sophistication. But somehow Moxley still managed to make it about himself. When he wasn't bleeding on his teammates, he was dragging them into his barbed wire fetish matches like a bad friend who insists you try karaoke even though you can't sing. AEW tried their best to elevate Moxley, but it was destined to fail because when the leader is a guy who bleeds on everything and calls it art, it's not art. The faction was supposed to bring a mix of class and brutality, but with Moxley at the helm, it just became the Jon Moxley blood donation drive. This man bleeds so much he makes Quentin Tarantino movies look like Pixar films. Hardcore wrestling is fine when it's done sparingly, but for Moxley, it's a lifestyle. This man is one pizza cutter away from being the Saw franchise's next villain. Somewhere along the way, Moxley decided he wanted to be the reincarnation of Terry Funk, but he forgot to add charisma and creativity. Instead, he just bleeds all the time. And now we have the Death Riders. These guys are trying so hard to look menacing that it's borderline hilarious. They're basically a wrestling version of that high school metal band that plays in someone's garage and tells everyone they're big in Japan. It's like Moxley keeps trying to reinvent himself, but all the versions are just slightly worse than the last. The Death Riders are Moxley's last attempt to convince us he's all the toughest man alive. These guys look like they just came from a biker rally in a mall parking lot. His offense looks like he's throwing punches in slow motion. His offense is basically, how many awkward punches can I throw before I accidentally fall down? His finisher, the paradigm shift, or Death Rider, or as I like to call it, the shoulder shrug of mild inconvenience, it's not exactly what you call devastating. Looks like a DDT someone forgot to finish. His matches often look like two drunk guys trying to settle a fight outside of Denny's at 3 a.m. You're not sure who's winning, but you know it's not the viewers. If you've heard one Moxley promo, you've heard them all. He's either growling about violence, pacing like he's locked out of his house, or describing how he's gonna bleed for the people. We get it, John. You're intense. But can you say anything that doesn't sound like a rejected speech from Fight Club? Tyler Durden called, and even he thinks you're overdoing it. How did this guy end up as world champion 4 times? Moxley's title reigns are like the Fast and Furious movies, unnecessarily long, over the top, and full of moments that make you ask, why is this still happening? Here's this thing about main event stars. They're supposed to be larger than life. The Rock oozed charisma. Austin was a cultural icon, and The Undertaker is a living legend. Jon Moxley looks like he just rolled out of bed, didn't bother to shower, and decided to bleed all over your main event. To be fair, Moxley does have passion. Unfortunately, passion alone does not make you a great main eventer. At some point, you need things like charisma, polish, and I don't know, some sense of fucking coherence. So is Jon Moxley the worst main event wrestler in history? In my opinion, absolutely. He's the Nickelback of wrestling, somehow popular, but nobody knows why. He's like the Sharknado of wrestling, ridiculous, overhyped, and somehow still getting sequels. Whether it's his time in the Shield, leading the BCC, or confronting the Death Riders, Moxley's career is a cautionary tale. Passion and grit are great, but without actual talent or charisma, you're just spinning your wheels in a puddle of your own blood. Literally.